Kingdom greetings to each and every one of you from the office of the Bishop of the Church of God of the Apostolic Faith, International Ministerial Association and Corporation. This is a press conference that I have called today to speak about the stereotyping that is going on about our homeless here in the great city of Greenville, Ohio. Let me first say that this is a wonderful city and that we are blessed to be in this city. However, the actions of a few is put this city on the map, and not in a good way. The office of the bishop is to represent those people of color, those people of racial ethnicity, those of disability, and each and every person on the earth, no matter what their situation is. And this is the very reason that we founded On the Front Lines Defending American Freedom, is to challenge such actions that we are going to talk about today and many other actions in the legal court system. We, the Church of God, do not take this as a political stance. We take this as a kingdom issue, and the Word of God teaches us that we are all sacred. We all have a purpose, and you cannot discriminate against people that are homeless, those people that has disabilities, and so forth, simply because you do not want to address the crisis of homelessness. Without further delay, I have asked our presiding prelate of the Church of God to read a pretty intense statement from my office, and this is directly my words, and he is going to come at this point and read the statement, and when he gets done, I will come back and address you, the news media, and address any concerns or whatnot. At this time, Bishop Roberts, without any further delay.
Okay, from the office of the bishop. There are many stereotypes about homelessness. Negative stereotypes can increase discrimination, violence, and hate crimes against people who are homeless. Therefore, I call upon the Greenville Council members, President John Baumgartner, Clarence Godwin, 1st Ward, Dolores Ely, 2nd Ward, Leon Rogers, 3rd Ward, Chris Norris, 4th Ward, Brian Brown at large, Doug Schmidt at large, and Jeff Whitaker at large, to all act quickly to reverse the ordinance they pushed through so quickly, one that was not an emergency and that did not allow the citizens the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The Greenville, Ohio City Council approved an ordinance concerning unauthorized encampments on public and or private property, as it tends to endanger the health and safety of those engaged in such camping, as well as the general public. Councilman Rogers asked, if this ordinance was in relationship to keeping the underneath of bridges cleaned out in the city. President Baumgartner responded with a yes. The city declares public place means any area of property either publicly owned or to which the public has access. The term shall specifically include, but not be limited to, a street, a sidewalk, an alley, a park, a playground, a parking lot or garage, the doorway or entrance to any building that fronts such a location, and a motor vehicle that is parked or idling in such a location. They have patterned the ordinance after Cincinnati's ordinance, a Democrat-run city, and that speaks volumes. City officials cannot criminalize and ban their way out of this crisis using an unconstitutional ordinance, and should be working to find proactive, safe, or just housing solutions for all its residents. As the Archbishop of the Church of God, I, Bishop Lee Bowling, am willing to work with the city, but we cannot allow what they are doing to go unchallenged. Now, I would like to know why it is that they want to attack our homeless people and be evil dictators concerning the public spaces. This is a matter that the office of the bishop is addressing, and we will be fighting for the homeless in our community. While yes, we need to clean up the town, we must also have a safe space for our homeless to be able to come to without fear of intimidation. Those who claim to be Christians on the council, shame on you. This goes against what our Lord teaches us in His Word. We are our brother's keeper, and we will march soon as one voice, and our voices will be heard. We will have 500 to 1,500 protesters assembled at the Greenville Municipal Building to show their support for homeless in mid-October. We are working on this now as we speak. We want to keep the peace, exercise our First Amendment rights, and hold these officials accountable, and we will make sure news media are aware of the injustice in the city. The Homeless Bill of Rights measures works to ensure that homeless individuals are protected against segregation, laws targeting homeless people for their lack of housing and not their behavior, and restrictions on the use of public space, granted privacy and property protections. Greenville must adopt such laws as well and rescind their unconstitutional ordinance against the homeless. The Homeless Bill of Rights is a grassroots organizing campaign fighting to end the criminalization of poor and homeless people's existence. These laws affirm that homeless people have equal rights to medical care, free speech, free movement, voting, opportunities for employment, and privacy. Homeless Bill of Rights must be adopted by the City of Greenville, Ohio City Council. No person should suffer unnecessarily from cold or hunger, be deprived of shelter ever. There is no crime in being poor, yet people who are experiencing homelessness are routinely criminalized for openly surviving and living in poverty, such as what Greenville, Ohio is trying to do with their local ordinance to run out all the homeless and or criminalize them. I, Archbishop Lee Bowling and Bishop Andy Roberts, stand against such actions and will do everything in our power to bring legal attorneys and news agencies involved to bring awareness of what is taking place in the city. We will fight with every bit of money, time, energy, and passion we have available. The City of Greenville is violating the laws of the right to equal treatment. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, 42 U.S.C. 12101, ADA prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability by both public and private entities, whether or not they receive federal financial assistance. We are currently seeking attorneys, if need be, to file suit against any and all parties who seek to discriminate against any homeless or disabled person. The truth is, our office has been ringing off the hook from law firms wanting to take this case. To profile homeless is no worse than racial profiling, and it is unjust to say the least. Approximately 3.5 million people experiencing homelessness each year, according to the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty. The City of Greenville should be ashamed to be part of the criminalization of homelessness. This ordinance is not about addressing public safety and health. We have had this issue for years in the city. Their egos are hurt now that we are exposing the failures of the policies of decades by city officials. Now they are retaliating against the church and the homeless. In Greenville, we need homes, not handcuffs. What Greenville seeks to do with the new policies put in place with the past ordinance will violate civil liberties, and make no mistake about it, it will open up the city to lawsuits. It has been an honor and a privilege to learn from and work with these distinguished scholars. Their valuable contributions to research, teaching, and advocacy have been greatly influential to my own work in my role as Archbishop of the Church of God. I would also like to thank my team. I'm thankful for the support and the encouragement of my family, friends, and churches who will stand united in our efforts to fight for the most vulnerable of the city, the poor. Given the challenges in obtaining accurate estimates of homelessness, it is to be estimated around 150 to 200 homeless reside in Greenville. In 2012, hourly workers earned an average of $10.19 an hour. Approximately 8.2 million Americans were working part-time as a result of the lack of sufficient full-time work being available. Yet some in our city would have you to believe it is because they are poor. And when they are poor, it's because they are lazy. The current minimum in Ohio is $8.80, and in 2021, and in 2022, the minimum wage is $9.30. The shortage of affordable housing is a major contributor to homelessness in the United States. So-called individual or personal risk factors such as domestic violence, mental illness, and substance abuse also contribute to homelessness. Domestic violence, for instance, is frequently described as a personal risk factor for homelessness, but it is a lack of access to adequate housing, evictions, discrimination, and poverty that contribute to homelessness. This week, my office was calling upon the American Civil Liberties Union and other constitutional lawyers to join in this fight to protect against those affected by homelessness. We are also asking all churches, bishops, and homeless people all across Ohio to join in a massive protest against what the City of Greenville is doing against the homeless in the city. The low level of government assistance provided to disabled Americans is yet another structural factor that contributes to homelessness for people with mental illness. The maximum supplemental security income, SSI, benefits for a qualified individual is $6.98 per month. Homelessness is caused by many complex, and those in the world who stereotype those who are homeless are not truly in touch with science and the facts concerning homelessness. What the City of Greenville did is enacted local ordinance and laws that explicitly target homeless people. By prohibiting certain individual activities in public spaces, they serve to criminalize homelessness. This is a clear violation of the civil protection laws. Ordinances in which activities such as camping in a public park or sleeping in one's vehicle include police sweeps of areas, and the homeless are arrested in an effort to clean up the neighborhood is a major lawsuit waiting to happen. What is next, Greenville? Individuals or groups who share food create a dependency of homelessness. So should we be arrested and jailed? The pushing out of homeless people can be seen as a result of poor leadership of our city officials who seek to avoid the tough talks. Homeless women and men are perceived as expendable. in this city, and the ordinance speaks for itself. To gain a fuller understanding, maybe these officials should experience homelessness for themselves for 24 hours. The prejudice and discrimination of the homeless is unacceptable and will not be tolerated by my office, as we will seek justice for each and every person in the city who is targeted by the city. According to the studies, the homeless population is estimated to be 42% African American, 39% white, 13% Hispanic, 4% Native American, and 2% Asian in the United States. Stereotyping was well documented in many places across the globe, but what are we doing to end the stereotyping? The lack of discussion is about to cost leaders in Greenville to be named in a federal lawsuit unless they cease and desist immediately from their actions. Their misjudgments have caused much harm to those of the homeless community and caused much fear and panic among the homeless community, causing me to issue safety shelters across the city in the days to come. If we want to address homelessness in the United States, we need to stop looking at homeless people as them, and we need to start looking at us. If we believe our government represents us, it is we, the people, who must pressure our elected officials to make a real commitment to restore funding for affordable housing. Outlawing homelessness won't make it go away. Nothing ends homelessness like a home. Our elected officials have important roles to play in advancing alternative visions and promoting solutions for the homeless. And if they are not willing to, we must vote them out of office, period. No discussion is needed. There are many myths and stereotypes that people believe about homelessness. This misinformation is problematic and it is further stigmatization. The early church sacrificed their whole lives to obey God's will. I am asking, what will you do in this moment of history? Will you stand and be counted, or will you run and be a coward? There is a war on for the eternal souls of men, and there are precious few warriors who are on the side of God, truth, righteousness, and holiness. But numbers are not important when the cause is right. It doesn't matter if we are vastly outnumbered, out-equipped, out-voiced. It only matters that we do what is right. David believed that there was a cause, and that is why he dared to challenge the giant Goliath. When every other man in Israel was shrinking back, somebody must stand for the cause of righteousness, and it might as well be you, and it might as well be me. There is a cause, and the cause is to stand and fight against the injustice of fellow brothers and sisters, men, women, and children in our city who are homeless. By God's help, I will stand until there is no more breath in me. We must come out of our caves and face the fierce challenges of hell with the truth of God's word burning in our souls. An unwavering faith in our hearts. Arise, go forth, pursue. Let no man take our crown. Once again, a court has reiterated the panhandling laws. That panhandling laws are unconstitutional attack on free speech. A 2015 U.S. Supreme Court ruling made it clear that most laws targeting panhandlers are unconstitutional. U.S. District Judge W. Keith Watkins agreed with the plaintiffs, issuing a preliminary injunction that prohibited the enforcement of panhandling laws in Alabama. Reed versus Town of Gilbert is also another victory. Many lawsuits have been won all across the United States for targeting poor and homeless individuals by passing laws by criminalizing homelessness. Local governments are not free to trample on the rights of people just because they are experiencing poverty or living without housing. The Supreme Court has held that it is cruel and unusual punishment to criminalize homelessness based on long-standing legal principles that people cannot be punished for their status. The federal courts have made clear at all levels across the country, treating homelessness like a crime is unconstitutional under many circumstances. Despite this, Greenville thinks it is above the law. Laws prohibiting sitting, lying, or sleeping in public have been found unconstitutional and constitute cruel and unusual punishment when enforced against people who have no access to shelter. In Powell versus Texas in 1968, the Supreme Court found the Eighth Amendment prohibits the state from punishing an involuntary act or condition if it is the unavoidable consequence of one's status or being. Homelessness is traumatic enough as it is without the worry of being arrested. Now is the time to have the General Assembly of Ohio to address current laws such as criminal trespassing laws that are way too easy to change or to charge homeless people with, and have those laws changed. Homelessness doesn't care that you have fought wars. Homelessness doesn't care if you're white or black. Homelessness doesn't care if you're male or female or what political party you belong to. My prayer tonight is that God would raise up the people that have a heart for homelessness, providing safe, supportive, and welcoming environments for the homeless. In our mission here at the office of the bishop, we, the church, have a responsibility to provide both physical and spiritual support to those in need. We have a duty to clothe those in need and to visit the sick. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Matthew 25:35-36. Jesus himself was homeless. The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath nowhere to lay his head. Jesus relied on the hospitality of others. The man with leprosy. We read of him being hated and scorned. He was forbidden from entering towns. Did he have a home, or was he living on the streets begging for help? Some homeless people feel so distraught and heartbroken. They feel forgotten in today's world. In Greenville, they are going to be treated as lepers. A picture painted that they are diseased, a health emergency. Discrimination on the basis of homelessness runs rampant throughout our city, from law enforcement to private businesses, medical, social workers, churches, community leaders, and council must pass this legislation that I am calling for. It is basically a civil rights amendment called Homeless Bill of Rights that will help eliminate discrimination against homeless people simply because they are homeless. We must ensure that the homeless have the right to rest in public space without discrimination or arrest. Discrimination, prejudice, and violation of homeless people must end today all across this land. We as a city must take important and compassionate steps to ensure the betterment of our homeless community. I ask the Christians, civic organizations, and communities across the world, will you stand with us and be a change for the betterment and help us get the message out that it is not okay to discriminate on the basis of homelessness. Let me be clear that the city needs to understand that it is not a crime to be homeless. Homelessness desperately impacts Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, women, and members of the LGBTQ community, and people with disabilities. This is who they are attacking by the 22-102 ordinance. This through policy, advocacy, public education, and impact litigation. We, the Church of God, seek to bring about change and help our homeless community in cities all across the nation. Today, our team includes attorneys with lived expertise of homelessness, poverty, racism, and other forms of discrimination, seeks to end the administration of arresting a homeless and demands housing, not handcuffs. Many homeless people will be rewarded if this city continues down the road. Let me assure you that the Fifth Amendment states that a person cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. To run them out under the bridge and take their belongings is against the law. Benjamin Franklin said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Now therefore it is accordingly ordered and adjudged and decreed that the General Assembly of the Church of God of the Apostolic Faith International Ministerial Association will stand united against the City of Greenville, Ohio, City Ordinance 22-102, and will seek damages for all those who are discriminated against by the City of Greenville, Ohio." From the office of the bishop. Bishop Bowman.
All right, appreciate that, Bishop Roberts, and reading the statement from my office. Let me reassure you that the city officials cannot criminalize and ban their way out of the crisis that we are facing in our city by using unconstitutional ordinances, and should work to find a productive, safe, and just housing situation for all of its residents. As Archbishop of the Church of God, I am willing to work with them, but I will not allow them to continue down the road with Ordinance 22-102. Whether it takes us days, months, weeks, or years, I promise Greenville, Ohio, with God on our side, we will not give up, we will not deter from the race, and we will do everything humanly possible to have this rescinded and have it redone. You cannot criminalize our homeless. Now, on the other side of things, on 9/20/22, City Council met once again, and the law director addressed the ordinance. Said that they had had many calls and told City Council not to address the issue. I have a problem with that. That is unconstitutional. We elected those people the same as we elected him to represent us, the people. And the First Amendment of the United States Constitution says that we have a right for redress grievance. So therefore, you're telling them to neglect their office that they took an oath to uphold. I have a problem with that, and you being a law director, you should understand this better than anybody, what the United States Constitution says. So now City Council does not want to address anyone concerning the matter. Matter of fact, I think the law director ought to resign if he doesn't know the law no more than that. To tell them that they cannot represent us, the people, and talk about this issue is a major problem that I have. And I like our law director, let me make it very clear, but he is in the wrong here. People who experience homelessness can be targeted by these laws that they have put in place for harassment, for displacement and loss of property, threats, and criminal procedures when living outdoors. And this can be an expensive process that is ineffectively at addressing homelessness and producing a number of people who must sleep outside on the streets. Such policies aren't going to solve our housing problem. The only thing that's going to serve justice is for our council to come back and rescind the bill and then work on homelessness. And that is the only thing. Because let me explain something to you real quick as we're wrapping this news conference up. The 8th Amendment says that you cannot give cruel and unusual punishment. However, that is exactly what this bill does. Whether you jail them, whether you fine them, you give them tickets, you're creating a cycle that is cruel and unusual punishment. Simply because they are homeless. You are criminalizing them because of that very reason. The First Amendment to the freedom of speech, living outside, and homeless encampments is a free speech according to what a judge wrote. And he said that the plaintiffs has a right to free speech and to live out in the community if they have nowhere else to go. Now, they patterned this after the Cincinnati town or city. My question is, are they not smart enough to come up with a bill without taking and patterning it after a democratical city? We are a Republican city, a very constitutional conservative, and that's why I'm very concerned at this bill. It is very democratical in the fact that it is targeting the homeless, and you find this a lot in the bigger cities, but it has been challenged time in and time out, and every time the Constitution comes back that they violate the 8th Amendment, the First Amendment, the constitutional right to travel, which is the 14th Amendment, stating that citizens has the right to lawfully and free travel. Due process, the 14th Amendment protecting citizens from the actions of increase of harm. The judge wrote in one case, destroying their tents, tarps, blankets, covering, taking their property is unlawful, and it is dangerous to the homeless and puts them at a greater danger. And I would say that cleaning up the bridge that they are talking about is going to be very detrimental to some of them because it is not done through due process. It is done through an unconstitutional mandate. And personally, I am sick and tired of people declaring an emergency and taking our First Amendment constitutional right in City Council. They didn't even give us a chance. They rushed this through. They didn't advertise it. They rushed it through, declared emergency, and now got our health department involved. They want to declare a health emergency and everything. I have a problem with that, using the government as a weapon to weaponize against the homeless people of this great city. The Ninth Circuit ruled that you cannot criminalize people who are living outside basically because they have no shelter or meaningful availability. Criminalizing homelessness might mean an individual experience homelessness is taken to jail, have to pay bails or fines